How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, created by whom? Created by we, the people. We, the people. We got to keep remembering that, folks. We, the people. But without further ado, we'll throw it to the studio where we have El Señor Jacques Van Beber and Howard Reynolds. How are my peeps doing this morning?
Well, we are here, Egberto. It's another fine day at the radio. Friday morning, the 30th of January, 2026, and we have made it this far. So we keep on plugging away.
We keep
another
on
day
keeping
in
up.
Empire.
Oh, yeah.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
I tell you, I am very annoyed by the fact that they are victim shaming and victim blaming for this crime in Minnesota. This is disgusting. This is very disgusting.
Yes, it is disgusting, but you know what? We got to live through it, and we are going to win it.
And we will. What you got here, Jack?
All right. Good morning, Egberto. Topics covered today. Democracy is not under attack in isolated industry. Come on, Tom. It's under siege through coordinated strategy that spans elections, public space, and global resource control. From the targeted ballot raid in Fulton County designed to suppress black votes to decentralized overpass activism disrupting authoritarian narratives to U.S. pressure forcing Venezuela to open its oil industry to privatization. Today's show exposes how power operates when it fears the people. These stories are not separate. They are connected by a single impulse, control. And to that, I wrote this little soliloquy. The ballot raid in Fulton County, Georgia, is about suppressing the black vote. Couple that with the cruelty of ICE's illegal immigrant enforcement tactics mask a greater truth, authoritarian rule of the American citizen. ICE's brutal tactics are designed to crush dissent and intimidate the people into silence, desensitize the people to state violence, and as one group after another is rounded up and sent to detention, America's version of Nazi concentration camps. Our economy looks like it's fixing to tank, so America's focus on survival needs like vegetable gardening and raising chickens instead of self-gratification of your wants and desires. Eliminate as much consumer consumption as you can and stop paying the people that are trying to enslave you. Keep some cash handy and learn how to communicate and network with your neighbors and your community.
You nailed it as usual, my brother. You nailed it as usual. Hey, guys, I am so sleepy. Last night I didn't go to bed till 2-something working on I'm working on a new book, and I think I'm about a month out of it. So I guess I'm going to have a lot more late nights. But anyhow, we're here, and thank you for that, Jack. Let me tell you, first of all, there are two videos that I'm going to be playing today. Both of them were seen in 2 consecutive days at a 3:00 show. It's going to be Greg Palast, who actually has the real reason behind what occurred with the ballot raiding Fulton County to get a hold of the ballots. And the other one is from the young man who started the bridge. What's the name of the group? I'm still sleepy, guys, so I don't quite remember all the things. The guy who started what is it called? Let me look at it. Where
Bridge Brigade.
Yeah, the visibility brigade. What the hell is wrong with me? I'm getting, anyhow, the visibility brigade. But before we go there, I have some stuff I want to talk about. Yesterday I saw a headline, or actually it was this morning, like 1 in the morning, on Common Dreams that said, under pressure from Trump, Venezuela's leader signs bill opening oil industry to privatization. And the first thing I said is, there we go. Once again, the plutocracy has won, and the plutocracy is back in Venezuela. There we go. They had to give up their oil, all that oil in the tankers, and now they're going to give up their sovereignty. Until I read the middle lines, and of course, I had to go do a little bit of research after that as well. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But want to say good morning to Kendrew8430. I don't know where you're at, but welcome to Politics Done Right. T. Kendrews, thank you for being here. Harry Denson from, let's see, Missouri City, Texas. And of course, we have our beautiful Cheryl Elkin says, good morning from, wow, -7 Fahrenheit. She is in Massachusetts. Girl, I feel for you. That's cold. MXXS, good morning. Bobby K, good morning. Don. Jane B from North Carolina. Jane B invited me for a book club that they had in North Carolina. I enjoyed myself. She has a great, great, great bunch out there that read one of my books, and we discussed how to talk to your right wing relative friends and neighbors. It was great with that a bunch of folks in North Carolina. Had fun with you guys. Thank you for that invitation, Jane B. Lynette is in the house. Marnie is in the house. Jane says, Egberto, we missed you yesterday afternoon because we did Bridge Brigade. You know what? And I was about to play the video that you sent me at your Bridge Brigade, but I couldn't get it off the phone fast enough. Ha! Anyway, we also have Litmania Joan calling in early in the morning. Thank you guys for being here. Don said it's 7 degrees in southern Maryland. Oh, guys, and we think it's cold here at 27. Well, right now it's 41 degrees here in Houston. But the last few days we had something like 27, 28 degrees. And, we go crazy with those kind of temperatures. We're not used to that out here, But anyway, Marge KJ, great seeing you, beautiful. Jay Wiegers, welcome aboard as well. All right. Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia. Love you, love you, love all of you being here. All right. So, what I did last night after reading that headline that said, under pressure from Trump, Venezuela's leader signs bill opening oil industry privatization. Well, let me tell you something. Delcy Rodriguez, the woman who was vice president to Nicolas Maduro, she's a smart as hell lady. I mean, smart. She have several master's degrees that she got out of France, etc. And she was playing Trump pretty well. So it kind of surprised me until I read the fine print. And it turns out that what they did was modified their petroleum laws that allows private investors to come in. The truth of the matter is Venezuela, because of the blockade, the inability to use SWIFT, the inability to move their money, they had to use all kind of financial instruments to get their oil on the market. And then there were no investments to clean up the pipes and make sure that their drilling was active. China is building a platform in the Gulf of Maracaibo where they're, drilling for oil, etc. So I kept on researching. So I said, you know what? Let me see what's going on in Venezuela. Well, it turns out that they signed the deal where in royalties, they get up to 30% royalties on the oil coming out of the ground. And I said, okay, How does that match elsewhere? Well, if you own a piece of land in the United States, if you own a piece of land in the United States and somebody finds oil on it and you own your mineral rights, you get anywhere between, it's 12%, I think, is what you normally get. And I think if some people are lucky, they've gotten up to 25%. Well, they signed the contract on 30%. And I think after capital recapture, it goes higher. So I said, let me go around the world and see what others are paying. Nigeria, 12.5%. When Venezuela was taken advantage of with their resources before Carlos Andres Perez nationalized oil industry in Venezuela, they were getting only 16% royalty from all these big companies coming in and what I call raping their land. So in effect, she made a deal. She said, if I can get this kind of money to come back into the country, sitting on the largest reserve of oil, and we don't really care about exploiting oil for too much longer anyhow, I thought it was a good deal. So I think we need to be careful when we're reading about these deals, etc., and when we start talking about who caves or who got the better deal or whatever. When you have a superpower on your behind and you are still negotiating, etc., your power is that it's your land, and if things go south, you never know. Your guerrillas get activated, etc. So the United States have to watch about being in another Vietnam, etc. So everybody have hands to play, and that's what she did. And so I don't think for all the progressives in this, riding at these rags that are hitting her up, I think you have to kind of look at the positions the way you should. Anyway, Augie is on the line. Let's see. Come on in, Augie.
I didn't hear you until 3 minutes into the show, and in the middle of Jack's spiel.
Oh,
and
really?
Right now, there's two voices coming on. Yeah, what you're doing live, and the recording's coming on over you on the radio. But talking about tariffs, there's another thing you got to worry about is the treasury bonds here. China doesn't have to have a nuclear attack on us to hurt us. They can just turn in all their bonds. Plus, if Europe joins them, because you know how our president is treating Europe, if they were to trade their bonds in, our dollar would be getting worthless. And right now, in the currency exchange, the dollar is going downhill. So, besides the tariffs, we'll also have to worry about that. The value of the dollar is going down.
I am glad you brought that up,
Augie. Going on the radio, what we're hearing. But thanks for what you're doing. And
let me ask you, Augie, before you go, can you hear us now on the radio just fine, or is it still problematic? Whoops. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, Jack, whatever we needed to do in the studio, is that taken care of, or is all clean?
Yes, Howard's working on it.
Okay, excellent. Anyway, folks, sorry for what's happening on air, but we are taking care of it on air. I think on the internet, everything is working fine currently. Shara Elkin says economic boycotts are powerful. That's why we need to use them too. Wow, exactly, Cheryl. That is why we need to use them too. Let's see. Good, Richard C. Brown. Good morning. Okay, let me go ahead and play Richard, or rather, Greg Palace, because I think people need to know what was happening for real in Georgia. Here we go. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Greg Palace is known for his investigative reports for The Guardian and bestsellers, including The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. Greg Palace's new film about the latest attacks on the right to vote that bent this past election. It's called
Vigilantes Inc., America's New Vote Suppression Hitmen, narrated by Rosario Dawson and produced by Martin Sheen. Leonardo DiCaprio has released the film for free streaming at gregpalace.com. But there's more. Greg is just back from Portugal and Germany working on his new project with Leonardo DiCaprio and
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro. So look, man, I tell you, you've really been active, my friend. But first of all, welcome to Politics Done Right once again. Greg, how you
Glad
doing?
To be with you. Glad to be with you.
Well,
very much.
Let me tell you something, Greg. I mean, here's the deal. As soon as I saw that the FBI took over 700 boxes of records out of Fulton County in Georgia, I said I had to find you wherever you were. Last time I spoke to you, you were in Portugal, and I'm like, let me see. I got to find the guy. So I just sent you a text and said, I need you now, brother. I need you now. What the hell is happening in Georgia? Tell me. Okay. You actually spoke to those people.
Oh, yes. So I spent a lot of time in Georgia. I've been actually covering Georgia for 12 years for Al Jazeera, The Guardian, and BBC and Democracy Now! And what's happened is that the FBI sent in their Gestapo kick in the door types to grab the records from Fulton County, the election records. Now, why do they want those? Now, of course, the national line on this is as a bit of nonsense, which is that Trump wants to prove that he won the 2020 election. Yeah, he wants to do that, but that's not the main purpose of this. The main purpose of this, Fulton County, understand, is the heart of Atlanta, with Black Atlanta, and it is the heart of the vote that put Joe Biden into the presidency, because how Fulton went, Atlanta went, Georgia went, the nation went. And through massive vote suppression operations, Trump was able to take the state in 2024. But with the reason for this raid is to bend the elections of 2026 and 2028. The local Democratic elections officials in Fulton, they have it right. They say this is about 26 and 28. It has nothing to do with 2020. Now, what's going on here? Okay. They are trying to prove that Black people have been stuffing ballot boxes and the ballot drop boxes. And why? And so it's not just about this whole idea of this whole idea that he won 2020. The important thing is that they want to stop mail-in balloting in Georgia. They want to stop drop box voting, which is now understand that 70% of African Americans vote early in America, either by mailing in their ballot, by putting their ballot in a drop box. That most of the drop box votes in Georgia were in Fulton County in Atlanta, and early voting in person. And now Black people do vote early for a damn good reason. If you wait for election day, you're going to be waiting 4, 5, 6 hours in line. I can tell you, I was in Atlanta for one of the voting days, and there was a 4-hour line for Black people. I go to the white suburbs, there's no line at all. And remember, in Georgia, if someone hands you a bottle of water, they've committed a felony crime while you're waiting in the heat. So people vote early. They need those drop boxes. So what Georgia wants to do, or the National Republican Party wants to do, Pam Bondi or Blondie, whatever you want to call her, our Attorney General. So she wants to be able to prove that these ballots have been stuffed into the ballot boxes. Now, understand, this came out of this movie, 2,000 Mules, in which they said that Black men, 2,000, that they call mules, by the way, and it's always Black men, never white guys, it's always Black men, and that they are paid $10 a ballot by Mark Zuckerberg. That's interesting because Zuckerberg is a Republican. Mark Zuckerberg and George Soros. So they're mixing their anti-Semitism and their racism together. Why would a Black person take $10 to commit a felony crime of stuffing ballots, especially because on every single ballot drop box in Georgia and in most other states too, you've got a video camera, and they take a picture. You get a full video of someone putting their ballot in. And not only that, you can't stuff ballots. You know, people, you can't just like photocopy your ballot, stick it in a box, because every single envelope, your vote inside a ballot, a mail-in ballot, or that you put in the drop box, that's secret. What's not secret is that you voted. Your name has to be on it exactly as you registered. And it has a barcode. You have to sign it with a verifiable signature. But take a look at the outside envelope of a mail-in ballot. They all have an individualized barcode for every single voter. You have your own barcode. So if you try to photocopy it and go twice, you will get arrested for a felony crime.
Right.
They're not stuffing the ballots. And now the Republican Party, not talking to Democrats, the Republican parties has already gone through every single ballot twice to look at the registration, look at the signature, look at the barcode. There's not they couldn't find a single illegal ballot out of I think it was about 70,000 cast in drop boxes in Fulton. So now they're doing it again. They're going to try to prove, and why? Because they want to cut out the number of drop boxes. Atlanta and Savannah, 75% of the drop boxes were removed. In white counties, and those are two big black cities. In white counties, you've got the number of drop boxes were increased. So that's part of the game. Now, let's go to Houston as a good example of why they want to do this. Now, Houston, the most important politician in Houston, which is Harris County, is Rodney Ellis. Now, if you watch my film, Vigilantes, Inc., you'll meet Rodney Ellis. Rodney Ellis had the idea that for Houston and Harris County, which has the largest black population of any city in America, not Chicago, not Atlanta, it's Houston. And he was going to mail out during COVID 2.5 million ballots so that people wouldn't have to wait in line, get sick and die just to vote. So he's going to mail out 2.5 million ballots and then have drop boxes, place where people can drop them off. Well, Ken Paxton, who is running for Senate as your attorney general, who's been impeached for corruption, Ken Paxton got on the Steve Bannon show and said, if I hadn't stopped Rodney Ellis from mailing out those ballots in 2020, Trump would have lost Texas. That's how significant it is to protect those drop box ballots. In fact, you can't in Houston. It's very hard to vote by mail. They didn't allow 24-hour drop boxes. So Rodney Ellis in 2020, and now they've taken that away too, had fully manned like drive-through booths where you could drive through any 24/7 and vote. You know why? Because Ellis believes in democracy. And believe it, and really it's taking a really dangerous position that there ought to be democracy in Texas. But this is happening all over the country. In 30 states, they have restricted or eliminated drop box voting because of this film 2,000 Mules, which was, by the way, launched at Mar-a-Lago by Donald Trump, claiming that if you have a drop boxes, Black people are going to stuff those ballot boxes. That's what they're trying to stop.
That is a shame. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to get in touch with you right away, because I know that you were sleeping in Atlanta for a long time as you went and researched exactly the shenanigans that were going there, and people blocking people from voting, and everybody Republican challenging Democratic voters, etc. I remember well. So what do you think is going to be the outcome?
Oh, they're going to use it to try to knock out drop boxes and justify it. The second thing that they're going to do is use those records to say, oh, illegal aliens are voting. This is their other trick. They've already said that they're going to take the voter lists and the voters out of Atlanta, and they're going to match them to the ICE deportation lists, Department of Homeland Security. They have something called I think it's called the START program. Now, understand the problem with this. No, if you're not an American citizen, you shouldn't be voting in our elections, okay? But where are these illegal aliens? Where is this alien spaceship coming down, dropping off all these voters? Well, here's the fact. Back in 2000, in the Obama administration, Florida got a hold of the deportation lists for people in Florida. And believe it or not, Egberto, they had a lot of people named Jose Garcia.
Exactly.
So what they did was, okay, so they said Jose Garcia was deported. There's a Jose Garcia registered to vote in Miami. All right. Oh, yeah. Well, obviously he swum back across the Caribbean to vote in Miami, this illegal alien. And of course it's ridiculous. So they literally tagged 179,000 voters, 179,000 voters who were pulled off the voter rolls. And each of those people, all those Jose Garcias, all those Wangs and Asian Americans and the Korean Ho families, et cetera, they all had to go into a federal court. You know, you got to take a day off, got to go into federal court and say, I am who I am, and I'm an American citizen. Now, people like Bush don't go into court to prove that they're American citizens.
Right, don't have to, right?
The Koch brothers don't have to prove that they're American citizens. It's only someone named Garcia. And now, of course, with the Supreme Court ruling that they're allowed to profile by skin color and accent, this is unbelievable. But they're doing that. But of the 179,000 people pulled off the voter rolls, they found one single alien voter, but tens of thousands of people lost their vote, but they only arrested and found one single alien voter who happened to be a Republican from Austria.
Yeah. And you know what? It's so funny. Even so, half the times these foreigners don't know that they're not supposed to vote because somebody gave them a package and said you can vote. What's interesting, and this is for the audience though, as a naturalized American citizen, previous to becoming naturalized, let me tell you something. The last thing you want to do is go vote when you shouldn't vote, because you don't want to do anything that messes up your status of the potential of becoming a U.S. citizen. And if you're here in an undocumented manner, last thing you want to do is put your name on a list where somebody could find out.
And have your address.
Exactly.
And you put in and social security numbers, all that info. And that's what they want. So exactly. So the problem is in voting, when they remove you from the voter rolls or they disqualify your ballot, you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. You can murder someone and you're still innocent till proven guilty. But if your name is Garcia and they take away your vote because someone else named Garcia, you have to prove that you are not an illegal criminal voter. We've never had this in the U.S. This only began about 2008. And actually in 2000 with George Bush is when you began really this new, serious, sophisticated kind of computerized attack on voting. Because until then, we didn't have computers. We had records, and you'd have, like, for example, my film Vigilantes, Inc. Vigilantes Incorporated was the name of the Ku Klux Klan. They incorporated in Georgia as Vigilantes, Inc. And they went around and they successfully challenged most black voters in the state of Georgia, saying, Egberto Willies can't vote. He's not an upstanding citizen or whatever. But now they're using AI. They have a group called Eagle AI run by Trump's personal lawyer, Cleta Mitchell. And they're targeting hundreds of thousands of Americans using this AI business, but it's not using AI to make sure that their challenges are accurate. They're making sure that it's as wide as possible.
It's as broad. Exactly.
And then what they say, well, listen, all you have to do is come in and say that Egberto Willies, oh yeah, we knocked him off because we say he's not an American citizen.
Now he has to prove
it. Now you have to go and you have to prove. They don't have to prove that you're an alien. They have to prove you're an American.
It is a shame.
And this is so again, it's overwhelmingly voters of color and students we're finding.
Now, Let me tell you what I've been telling the audience. I've been telling my audience 8 weeks before the election to start checking your voter registration on a weekly basis. I've also told them that a few days, most of these voter registrations require you to be signed in 30 days before. So I said that about 33, 34 days before, check every day and find out when they remove you from the accounts, from the register, and then report it to you. Have a report it to gregpalace.com, report it to politicsdoneright.com. We are going to make an issue out of it because it's coming.
And by the way, re-register on the spot.
Right.
Now, a lot of states, by the way, about, in fact, almost 20 states these days, Wisconsin, Illinois, and a bunch of others, you can register on election day. So if you find out that you've been purged, that is, you've been wiped off the
voter register
rolls,
yeah,
you can say, instead of arguing with them, say, okay, I'll register right now. Make sure you bring photo ID, especially in Texas. And it's got to be current. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. The case that allowed photo ID to be a requirement was in 2008 under that was Scalia, who said there were 10 nuns. These are nuns showed up in their penguin outfits, the whole thing, to vote in Indiana. They all had driver's licenses, and they said, no, you can't vote. You know why? Because the driver's licenses, these are all nuns in their 80s and 90s whose driver's licenses had expired, but they haven't expired. It's their picture, it's their signature. And they literally, Scalia said, no, they can't vote. And that became the beginning of this whole attack with ID and challenging your right to vote.
Well, I am glad that you brought that up, because now I'm going to add that I had a list of things that I told people to do 8 weeks before the election. I'm going to add that. That is very important, what you just point out. That find out what states allow you to register on the spot, and we'll tell them, don't argue, just re-register again.
Okay,
I like that advice.
And by the way, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that we're out of time, but I know you have a very important announcement to make, and I'd love for you to do so.
Okay. Number one, obviously, go to gregpalace.com for my report on this raid in Atlanta. Sign up for my free newsletter, or go to Substack. It's Greg Palast, Palast, Greg Palast Investigates. But if you go to gregpalace.com, you can also sign up for my live appearance in Chicago on this coming up Thursday. That is February 5, 6:30 p.m. At the Hinsdale Universal Unitarian Church. And it's going to be, you can go in and get the info and a link, because it's going to be a national broadcast based out of Chicago of the film Vigilantes, Inc. And we'll have a Q&A session afterwards. It should be darn interesting. And, look, I'm going to just ask you to grab some popcorn and watch a movie. As the Chicago Tribune said, this is journalism at its entertaining best. I don't make these films. It's not your daddy's PBS. I do entertaining, but very informative, and sometimes really heartbreaking films. And I want you to join me February 5 in Chicago. If you can't make it personally, join us online.
And go to gregpalace.com and find the link to go register for that Chicago event on February 5th, guys. It's important for us to stay in the know. Like I said, once I found out what happened in Georgia, I know I needed to find Greg, because Greg has been doing the real journalism out there, not the popcorn stuff that you get from he said this and he said that. He actually went and spoke to the people. Greg, look, it's my honor as usual to speak to you. Thank you so kindly for bringing this out to us. It's important, and you'll be back again, because I know there's a lot more shenanigans that are going to be occurring, and we're going to need some of what you found out in your investigative reporting. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alberto.
Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Protect your vote.
Okay, folks, that was Greg Palast, and he is doing that research on all the shenanigans that are going on out there. Sorry for the problems that we had on air, but I think online, everything continued to function right. You know how the bells and whistles, sometimes we get into a little bit of trouble. So, Jack, are you happy now,
Well,
my dear brother Jack?
Egberto, I am sitting at
Yes.
the board. Things are restored. I think we're going to be okay.
All right. Well, let me tell you guys, that's what's great when you have what we call the engineer extraordinaire in El Senor Howard Reynolds. Thank you for that, Howard. Thank you for that. Anyway, we're going to continue with the program. The other tape that I want to play, that I just aged myself. I said tape. Nobody uses. Hey, when last have you played a tape, Howard? Have you played a tape recently of
2
anything?
days ago, yeah, I have a cassette
Oh,
deck that there's a professional cassette deck that I bought off of eBay that was refurbished, and I'm in the
uh-huh.
process of digitizing all of my cassettes, which is like
Oh,
an entire
wow.
wall full. So, so I wouldn't be one to ask, and I still say tape. I say,
Okay,
if somebody will ask me, is the show pre-recorded or are they going to do it live? I'll say it's on tape. So I still say it too. But then
well, you
again,
know
I'm
what?
71, so I've been around tape a long time.
Man, you're the youngest looking 71 I know, man. The youngest looking 71. Guys, you have to see
No,
Howard. He's not
KPFT
71,
is
man.
doing the KPFT is doing the best it can to age me, so, and it's working.
Well, look at what it did to you this morning. Look at what it did to you
I
this morning,
know
right?
there
But
are
hey,
several patches of hair on the floor.
anyway, folks, I want you guys to listen to Mr. Glazer here, Dana Glazer. He, when we talk about activation and really having a grassroots movement, our good lady turned us on to him, and when she did, I am like, Cheryl, thank you. Thank you. Send an email as well. Thank you. Because it's great seeing grassroots movements that really, really work. And this guy really built a movement. So let me go ahead and play him. And then we haven't played it on our live audience yet. I mean, in the on air audience yet. So let's go get busy and do that. Welcome to another edition of Politics on Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Recently on my radio show, I was speaking to one of our devout listeners, Cheryl Elkins, and we were speaking about all the different activist groups out there, people making a difference. And we had Neil Aquino from the Houston Democracy Project on. And Dana sent me not Dana, but Cheryl sent me an email, and she said, Egberto, you have to contact Dana because you speak about people going out there, activating and doing something. Well, guess what? I know somebody who's out there doing something, and he's gotten a whole lot of other people engaged. Folks, welcome aboard. We're honored to have Dana Glazer, founder of our Visibility Brigade, here with us today. Dana, how are you doing today?
Good to see you, Egberto.
Well,
doing well.
Dana, let me tell you, in these times more than ever, we need people to people to realize that they are already empowered to do what's necessary to maintain our democracy. Sometimes we need a catalyst to actually move them on. And from everything I've heard about you, it seemed like you were ideal in your part of this country to do it. Tell us a little bit about the Visibility Brigade.
Sure. Well, the Visibility Brigade started in Paramus at the Overpass that you probably can see right behind me. And it was created by me and a number of other activists. And it was done because we were concerned that you drive around and everything seems normal in a time when it's not. And so we wanted to disrupt that normalcy and to remind people that they have civic responsibility in terms of upholding our democracy. And so we started putting signs up on the overpass. And about a year ago, we created a toolkit so that other people we could share what we learned, and other people could do this in other parts of the country. And since then, we're closing in on 400 groups.
400 groups.
Yeah.
Wow, that is powerful, and that is what we call a people's movement. And you are one of many movements out there, but that is how fast did it were you able to grow it to that size, or was your group able to grow it to that size?
Well, it goes in fits and sputters and starts, and it's an interesting thing how this sort of goes. I mean, some days we get 5 new groups, and some days we get none, and I think that people see what we're doing, and then they get inspired, and then they go and create their own visibility brigades, because they see that the power of what we do is, we are bubble busters. It doesn't matter what silo you're in, what you think about the news or what have you. If you're driving past us, you're going to read our message regardless of where you are. And so that's a really amazing thing on a daily basis. When we go out, like in Paramus, that's between 5,000 and 15,000 people that see us every time we do this. And so if you do that times 400, that number really starts to add up. And so we create awareness. I think that we also serve as an alternative news source for a lot of people, because oftentimes what we do is we state the truth about what is happening in a very plain kind of way. And so we inspire people, we remind people that they're not alone. And then we get people come and join us. And that's the beauty of this. It's all volunteer driven. There's no money in the Visibility Brigade. It's just all people power and all about the passion for saving our country. And that's purely what we're about.
You mean you're not paid activists from Soros or one of these other groups? Are you sure that all that 400 groups that you have out there, which amounts to thousands of people, aren't getting a paycheck from Soros?
It's an interesting thing. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I can just sort of jokingly say, well, we haven't gotten our check in the mail yet. but I think it's an interesting thing to sort of consider why people would think that. And what's interesting is that a good swath of people who are involved with Visibility Brigade are educators or nurses or doctors or in service veterans, in service of others. And it's somehow built into the people involved in this movement. And I think in anybody who is trying to actively try to save our country, to be of service to something larger than ourselves. And so if you're on the other side, you're thinking, well, what's the matter with these people? They must be paid, because why would they be doing something like that? Well, the answer is the antidote to saving our democracy is to be civically minded, is to donate some time every week to saving our country. And that's why we're in this mess. And that's why we're doing this, to get more people in the habit of doing this.
That is beautiful, that these are people who serve. And of course, naturally comes that as you see the country in trouble, that you serve. As you see it right now, what are our major problems that you all want to make aware and also solve?
Oh, just fascism.
Mm-hmm. Just your basic fascism, right?
Fascism,
right?
This little thing. I mean, I think that's the heart of it. But I think that really what it comes down to is greed, and that we have a system that unfortunately has run off the rails and is rewarding people for being greedy and accumulating way too much wealth while other people are suffering. So there's an imbalance that's occurred over the last 50 or so years. There's also the inherent problem of racism that goes back to the beginning of our country that's never been resolved, and that exacerbates this problem. So there's a number of things that are happening, but I think that what it's ultimately led to is the reality that we have a country that's troubled, and it's an incredible country. It's a beautiful country. And there's so much hope and vitality and so many wonderful people in every part of our country. And yet there's this evil that we have to root out and deal with and bring democracy back in to everybody's lives so that we can have more equal footing, so we can have a more equitable society.
You're so right. The country is populated of beautiful people, good people, mostly good people. We just simply too often have the knack to elect those that aren't so beautiful. And I think one of the things that you said in the beginning of this interview is you express messages on those overpasses that you put there in a plainly, easily understandable manner. Because I think that is why good people elect bad politicians, because they're able to put things in generally complicated words that confuse people into voting against their own interests. And you guys are out there clarifying not only messages, but issues and policies. When you sat down and realized that you had that you could do this, what would you tell somebody who know there's something wrong, want to do something about it, but just believe they don't know where to start? What would you tell that person?
I would say to the person, I'd say to whoever's watching this, consider what your skill sets are. And that could be what professionally, what you are trained to do, but it also could just be, what are your personal strengths as a person in terms of capability? We all have skills and gifts that we've been given, and we must all use them. So I'm a filmmaker. And so a lot of the things that I put into what we have as the Visibility Brigade comes from my understanding of filmmaking, of telling a story, of organizing people, and creating, using creativity to thwart the problems that we face.
Well, let me tell you something, Dana. The work that you do is so important, and it's also, most importantly, inspiring and feels achievable. Those are two very important things. Something that is inspiring, that feels achievable, is something that we all are willing to do. Usually, the last question I always ask is, what should I have asked you that I didn't?
Well, I think the best in terms of what we do, if the Visibility Brigade, if our approach inspires you to go do something like this, come join us. And the simplest way to do so is to go to visibilitybrigade.com and sign up. You can sign up as an individual and join our movement. You can register a group and adopt an overpass and join us. That's how we're going to solve this problem, is by all working together. And everybody has different ways of doing things. And like I said, we all have skill sets. We all need to put those skill sets to use in however we can to save our country. That's got to be the priority right now.
We've been speaking with Dana Glazer, founder of Visibility Brigade. Thank you so kindly for having spoken to Politics Done Right, even if in an impromptu manner. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you, Egberto. It was a pleasure being here.
It's interesting how the chat started. When we had a little chat, and I said, you know what, this is going somewhere. Why don't we just go ahead and tape this as I learn about what you do and kill two birds with one stone? Turns out we were probably killing 10 birds. Oh, that sounds bad. Not killing birds. Why do I don't use that anymore. Anyway, look, folks, LBW welcome LBW, who is La Profesora in the house. I love my teachers. She wants to point out something important, because Greg Palace said, remember, if you go to vote and they are off the rolls, don't just jump out there and say, try to create necessarily a scene, but just re-register to vote right there on the spot and vote, because provisional ballots usually don't get counted. But as LBW points out, in Texas, there isn't same-day registration. So you have to do what I said in the beginning of that video, which is continuously check your voter registration status. In the case of it in Houston, you go to the Harris County assessor, and you go ahead the county off, and you check it online consistently once a week, 8 weeks before the election. When you get about 35 days or 33 days before the election, check it every day until and take a picture of that screen.
that shows you're registered. And if for some time you find yourself dropped off, contact the media and go re-register right away. If within the 30-day period it falls off, that is a court battle that we have to fight then, because we will not allow a stolen election with the shenanigans they're doing with the voter rolls. We will not allow them to do what they want to do to the voter rolls. Right now, our governor has turned over your voter information to the president. Okay, let I hope you realize that all your voter data, social security, everything has been turned over to brother Trump. Okay? That's what Greg Abbott has done. It's important that we know that. Let's get Jimmy on the line. Jimmy, come on in.
Hi, Berto. I'm glad you got your program straightened out today. What I'm calling about now, though, is that the West Houston Democratic Club is meeting Saturday at 12 noon at the Tracy G Center. That's TRACYGEE Center, Saturday at noon. They're going to interview a lot of candidates there. It'll be a good chance to learn about what the candidates stand for, to ask them questions and so forth. This Saturday, 12 noon at the Tracy G Center, the West Houston Democratic Club.
Thank you for that, Jimmy. That's some important information, Jimmy, because, one of the things is that nobody half the times know who they're voting for, but that is a good thing. So your club is doing a good job. Anything else you want to add, sir?
Just keep up the good work, keep up the communication, and have people talk to each other about these issues, and write letters to the editor, write letters to your congressman, and so forth. Be involved. Help
Thank
to
you,
make
Jimmy.
a better world every day.
I appreciate you, Jimmy. And let me tell you, Jimmy doesn't just speak the word; he actually does it. He sends a lot of letters to the editor, and many of them get printed. So thank you, Jimmy, for what you do. We also have in the chat, Joan says they really do tell on themselves. Every time the orange one accuses the other side of doing something, they're doing it. That is so true. If you want to know what they're doing, just check out what they're accusing somebody else of doing. And it turns out that's what they are doing. Elkin says, I cannot tell you all how soul filling it is to have a group of people to stand up with every week and speak truth. There's a time that you had people all in despair about what is happening, and I don't remember who is it that said, listen, if you want to get rid of that despair, I mean, you're going to still have that feeling in your gut, but you want to get rid of that despair. You want to do something. You want to do something to get us out of where we're at. And I want to give some kudos to Minnesota Minnesota and neighborhood and community. They got together and they formed community groups, just ad hoc community groups, and look at how powerful they were. These guys had guns and sprays and the works, and look at what they're doing. They have put the administration against the wall. Yes, the administration is trying to save face right now, but they said, we are not just going to be taken. We're going to be out there. They did something and they got results. And there's some other reported stories that nobody talks about, like the airline company that was shipping a lot of these people from Minnesota and otherwhere to these holding tanks. What do you think happened there? Well, the airline had to stop because the boycotts and the exposing of the airlines began. So it's very important for us to understand that we make a difference. Don't ever think activism isn't going to make a difference. You all are making a difference. Harris says, Your guest, Dana Glazer, is correct with the United States being a troubled country these days. Egberto, well done video. Thank you, my brother. And let me tell you, the new book that I'm putting together right now, it's about how do we restore after Trump. How do we restore after Trump? Of course, we have a little bit of messaging in there, but how do we restore after Trump? Because you know what? This is going to be short lived. I guess I got a couple of minutes or a minute and a half or so for the other callers. So let's go ahead and just let them in and let's see what they have to say, because we had a little interesting occurrences on the air a few minutes ago. Caller ending in 7-6. Come on in. Go ahead.
Hello,
Yes, I can hear you.
it's Kathleen. Good morning,
Hi,
Alberto. Happy New Year. Late
Happy
in the
New Year,
month, I met
Kathleen.
that person. Listen, I had to call this morning, listening at you all when you were having problems, but I have not received my new card in the mail. I have been voting by mail for years, but after they began to interfere with the voting process, anytime I can get to the polls, I've gone. It's just that I have a visual difficulty, so it makes it harder for me to do, but I've gone out. But I have not received my new card in the mail this year.
Well, you need to call the county office when they open at 8 o'clock and tell them, give them your name and make sure they send that out to you. There's a lot of shenanigans like this that is likely to happen in Harris County. Now, we have the woman that has taken over, well, she's been there for a few years now. I can't remember her name. She does a great job, but the voter rolls are handled in Austin. So call the office and tell them you want your rolls. I got to get out of here. We're out of time, Kathleen, but thank you for calling, sis, okay? All right. Anyway, folks, we got to get out of here. The rest of the show is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Email me, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.